Hey, gang, this is Carl. And you're listening to the number one podcast for loan officers throughout the nation. And we're doing an impromptu thing. I'm sitting here with my partner and very, very longtime dear friend, Chris Johnstone. And we're in the green room prepping to do a webinar.
Yep.
And um, and I was just commenting, oh crap, I need a link, Chris. And so I go onto my calendar and there's a step by step, like they're talking to a fifth grader, set of instructions. Say, Carl, here's your link. Go here, click here. Now I've clicked on, I know how to, I've run probably literally at this time, 1,000, like literally a
Oh,
thousand Zoom, go to webinar, go to meetings, like literally 1,000 of them. And yet there was a step by step button. Click here, log in here. Here's your password. It's all set up there for me because I all of a sudden I went, oh Chris, crap, I'm going to need a link. Wait, how do I sign on again? Now I've done 1,000 of these. Instead of my team going, you bonehead, you've done this 1,000 times. Don't you know how to do this? Right? It's wonderful to be surrounded by a team that knows what your gifts are
yeah.
and knows what your shortcomings are.
Hmm.
And I think the idea of when you're trying to figure out who to work with, whether it's your team or you're a branch manager that you're joining, or you're a branch manager and you're a division manager, like we all have a hierarchy, or maybe you own your own shop, and this is your I hate to use word assistants, but like the team members that you're
Yep.
working with. You want to look for people that have a different set of gifts from than you. You know,
Absolutely.
what I think a mistake that I made in the past, Chris, is I would hire people like me.
Yep.
Have you ever done that? Is that
Absolutely. 100%. Because I love the marketing and advertising side of things.
yeah,
And, wake up one day and all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, here's all the marketing and advertising people. Where's all the customer support? Where's all of the operations? And that's
yeah.
so absolutely I've done that.
Yeah, I would interview somebody and I go, "Man, I just like this guy," or "I just like this lady," or "This lady reminds me of me when I, a few years back," or and that didn't work out so well because then we ended up with a bunch of I'm going to use air quotes here, Carls, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I found that finding people that are, I wouldn't say opposite of me, but sort of, in the old Rocky movie, the original Rocky movie, Rocky has this great little uh, short line that, man, Maria and I think about all the time. And he's talking to Adrian, and he's holding up his hands like he's going to interlace his fingers. And he says, Adrian, I got my gaps and you got your gaps, and together we have no gaps.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like you have an opposite kind of thing that works together. I think you have to have the same basic philosophies.
Yes.
You have to have a servant's heart.
Yeah.
I want to help people. We don't do this for a cash grab, right?
Yep.
And so I think you have to have the basic like end result philosophies. But as far as our talents go, I think identifying what your talents are and then hiring people that do the opposite. How do we find out? You know something, when you're looking at what your talents are, I think a lot of people have a hardest time identifying what their talents are
Hmm.
because it comes so when you have a talent, it just comes easy to you.
Yeah.
And you think, well, that's not everybody can do this part. And they go, no. Like my team this morning, like, Carl's logged on to Zoom 1,000 times. He knows exactly what to do. Apparently not. Right. You know? And yeah. So I think so. How do we identify what our talents are since they come natural to us and we think everybody can do this? How do we identify our own talents, do you think?
So one of the things that I did when we really started to scale our team was I started time tracking and looking at the areas where I was spending the most amount of time
Mm,
because those were the things that I enjoyed, which
mm,
just happened to be the things that I was good at. Like we're all going to gravitate to the things that we're really good at. I'm really interested in, Carl, how you look at the process of identifying those gaps, those gaps in between the fingers.
So you know what so for me, so this is going to be a little bit weird, and I don't say these kinds of things in public, or to other people other than my closest friends, because I don't want it to sound weird. But I ask my friends,
Mm,
I ask you,
yep.
I ask my ever so wonderful, long time, the original co-founder with myself of the Mortgage Marketing Animals, Diane. I asked the lovely Mrs. White. I understand the lovely Mrs. White. She can be, and I say this seriously, she can be a little bit biased,
Yep.
because she's my wife. I'm her husband. We've known each other now for, gosh, 40
Wow.
years, I guess. It's hard to believe.
Yeah.
And
Well, she knows you're good at everything.
well, I mean, she has, as with any long-term relationship like that, you kind of get a little set of blinders
Hmm.
to your partner's shortcomings. You know what I'm saying? Because we all have them. I don't care how amazing you are. There's things that you're short on, and so I think we kind of get blinders to it. So while I get feedback from her, I understand it's a little bit biased. So primarily, it'd be like you, or Steve, Frank, Kristen,
Yep.
um, Teresa. I'll leave somebody's name out, so but I think asking your friends that aren't saying something to be nice, they're saying it to help me identify what to focus on. And then as far as like identifying my shortcomings, I don't think that's an issue with anybody, because frankly, I think we weigh too heavy on our shortcomings and
Hmm.
not enough of our talents.
Yep. A hundred
And
percent.
yeah, and I think, I had somebody a long time ago. I was going to go interview for a job in the hospital system, and I read this little book, and it gave quick, great answers to likely interview questions.
Yeah.
And one of the questions was, Carl, what do you do to work on your weaknesses?
Mm.
And I went out on a limb and gave that answer, but I think it's the right answer. I think it's the honest answer. As I said, well, I don't look to improve my weaknesses, because if I try to improve my weaknesses, I end up with a bunch of strong weaknesses. And so on my weaknesses, I look for a who,
Yeah.
and then focus on my strengths, because that's what's going to move the needle. So if I'm a just say which I'm not, but if I was a world-class bicyclist, the last thing I'm going to do is enter a contest to win the gold medal in swimming, or
That's right.
vice versa, right?
Hmm.
And so I think it's like, ask people around you, what am I really great at? And which sounds kind of weird when you say that, but it's a great thing to ask, and you ask people that you're, and I'm gonna say intimate with. I don't mean physically, but like you're emotionally intimate with, like you and I are,
Yep.
where I can kind of lay everything on the table without judgment, and I know it's okay.
Yep.
And so identifying the strengths that way, and
And
just
one thing that I've found, Carl, is when you give people that license and
mm,
you're willing to be vulnerable and open with your team members, and you come to them and say, "Hey, look, it's important for us to understand our strengths and our weaknesses. We're a team, so you have the license to point out a weakness and come with a solution on, and you see your team light up because."
mm,
One thing that I learned from you is the things that you don't like doing, which are typically the areas where you're not strong and where you probably have a weakness. There's probably somebody out there, maybe on your team, that loves doing that activity, that can do it at that high level. They are the swimmer and you are the biker. And when a swimmer sees us out there trying to swim, they go, "That's not how you do it." Like
yeah,
I could go help with that. And when you give
yeah.
them the license to help, all of a sudden you get this team environment where everybody's doing the things that they love, which is a very special place to be.
Yeah, yeah, having an extra person in the boat. I picture life as I'm in a boat, and I've got one paddle, right?
Hmm.
One oar,
Yep.
water paddle. And so I'm paddling that boat just to the best of my ability, right? Or the best that I know how
Yeah.
at that moment.
Yeah.
Having you in the boat with me, paddling on the other side of the boat, so I don't lose that time switching sides. And frankly, being right-handed, I'm gonna I'm gonna paddle on the right hand side of the boat much stronger,
Yep.
and so ideally you find, and I'm using air quotes here, a left-handed person to paddle on the other side of the boat, and likely they're
Mm.
going to paddle that side, faster and better than I could. But you put those two people on the boat together, and man, you could, I can take, dude, with you and me paddling a boat, man, you could ski behind this boat. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
it's really effective and very, very, very efficient. And so what's the moral of the story of today's episode? Because we literally were in the green room and I said, hang on a second, and click the record button.
So
So
I
I
think this is a very unique opportunity for our listeners. So the title for most of us is loan originator. Well,
mhm.
you've built world-class mortgage teams. Where do you see a team structure of what a mortgage business looks like? If we take a mortgage business, let's aim at 10 loans a month, right?
Okay.
Because that's a good goal to aim at,
Yep.
right? For
Yep.
a lot of
Okay.
people. What does a mortgage business look like that's doing 10 loans a month? What are the different team positions? And where can we look for strengths in each of those areas?
So I'll tell you first at five.
Okay, perfect.
So if you're onesie Tuesday and you want to get to five, you're going to have help.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
And so, but at five, likely I won't be able to afford a full-time employee yet, right?
Right. Yep.
And so I'm gonna partner up with, say, and I'm just gonna grab a name here. Let's say Steve Kiles, right?
Yes.
So let's say hypothetically, obviously his team is very large, my team is very large, and so we're doing, literally hundreds and hundreds of loans each month. But let's just say we're just getting started, and I'm at two or three a month, and he's at like two or three a month, or I'm at one or two or something like that. I would call him up and I'd say, "Hey, Steve, let's go in together and get an assistant. Now I'm going to get paid on my loans. You're going to get paid on yours, right? We're not doing a rev share like that,
Yep.
but we're going to share the expenses of a helper." And I find that typically somewhere around 5 or 10 basis points each
Hmm.
will fund that person. And so you might go, well, wait a minute, I don't want to lose that 5 or 10 basis points. Yeah, but they're going to help me close twice as many loans. So, and I'm just going to use an easy math number of 100 basis points. If you got 100 basis points profit, they go, well, if I get help, I go down to 90. Yeah, but I'm going from two loans to five loans. Would you rather have 100% of a grape or 50% of a watermelon?
Yeah.
Or in this case, actually 80% of a watermelon, right?
Yeah.
And so you got to get help, right? You got to get help. And ideally, I'm gonna, like, let's say I called you up and you already have an assistant, and I know you're closing like four or five, so it's a little tight. You could really use some help on that. You've already got an assistant. They're already trained. They're already ready to go. They already know exactly what to do. Dude, I'll say, hey, Chris, I'll help pay for your assistant. You get your bips, I get my bips, right? We're not sharing mortgage stuff. That's a needle mover, right?
Yeah.
That's the, 'cause then we don't have to go hire somebody. You've already hired that person. That would be the ideal situation.
What does that assistant do? That first assistant.
That first assistant likely is going to do contract to close.
Okay.
So I don't need help on the front end 'cause I don't have enough help, but I need contract to close.
Okay.
And so the only reason they call me back in is if the loan needs to be resold or
Okay.
restructured.
All right.
In other words, I was going FHA and come to find out we need to go VA now. Or I was going VA and come to find out we need to go convent or whatever, right? It needs to be restructured. Or they're shopping me. We all get shopped, right? All
Yep.
not every file. It feels like it sometimes, but it's not. It's actually a small minority. Usually about 20% of the time, something like that, we get shopped. And so unless it's repricing or reselling, the assistant takes everything. And if the assistant comes to me and it says, "Hey, I don't know what to do here," I've got the wrong assistant.
Ooh.
Right. Yeah. I'm not here to train that person. I'm gonna hire a trained person. Just like when I hop on an airplane tomorrow, I'm not looking to train the pilot. I'm looking for a trained pilot to be on that airplane. Right.
Yes.
And so that's the way I look at this stuff. I don't train people. I hire trained people. Right.
Hmm.
So in fact, they likely train me more than I train them, frankly, because they'll show me what they're doing at their past shop and say, "Hey, Carl, I see what you guys are doing here. let me show you something that we did that might even be even better than what you're doing here. And that's
Yep.
where I get virtually all of my best practices is just by bringing people on because I bring my experience, they bring theirs, right? So
That's
that's
right.
that's the magic. So ideally, you'd hook up with somebody that's already got a team. At 10, I probably have my own team now
Okay.
of one. And
Yep.
again, it would be contract to close. And at 10, I could probably have a contract to close and an admin assistant to answer the phone.
Yep.
Because we, the, a phone call cannot do two things. It can't go to your cell phone
Yep.
because you're going to be busy prospecting,
Yep.
right? That's going to be an interruption. And two, somebody has to answer that phone because we know that 79% of the loans close with the first loan officer they talk to,
Yep.
right? That's a fact, right? That's a huge study. That's a fact. 79%. If you just answer the phone and you're the first one they talk to, you got a 79% chance of closing that loan, even if your rate is just so so, even if your reputation is just so so, even if your company is just so so, even if you're just a so so speaker, even if you're just a so so salesperson, you got a 79% chance by just simply answering the phone. That's huge. And
Yep.
so at 10, I've got a back in person from contract to close, and I've got an admin assistant that's helping my contract to close
Yep.
person. They're learning more of the business from not from me, from the contract to close. So they're coming up to speed because that person might end up being my second contract to close. And then my first contract to close, I might put part of their time on the front end to help me start taking applications because at 10 loans a month, I'm going to start needing help filling out. I'm still selling the loan, but I'm going to need help filling out the application. So it was a very long answer to your question, but
Very, very valuable though, because we see so many people that come in the mortgage marketing animals and they start doing the daily success plan and they start getting all of this activity coming in. And the next logical question is, okay, well, how do I process all this? So I think that's super valuable. So thank you for sharing.
yeah. Well, I think we kind of, so we went off and again, we had no I didn't know where it was going on this, so but I think this will help. Hey, let's do this. I got to do an impromptu call to action because you always want to tell people here's the next thing that's going to help you the best. So, hey, if you want to take a look at some team structure, or if you want to take a look at, hey, I need an assistant, who do you know that has an assistant that maybe I could talk to and either A, get some ideas about the assistant, where they find them, how do they pay them, the structure of what they do, or gosh, maybe I could again, you get paid your bips and they get paid their bips. Uh, Maybe you could kind of share into some assistants that's already trained. 'Cause let me tell you something. Right now, you better start like tightening things up because we're going to have a great fourth quarter, and I think we're going to have a phenomenal first quarter. And
Yeah.
so now's the time to tighten this stuff up. You don't want to wait till game day to get out there and go, okay, crap, I need a wide receiver to throw the ball to, right? You want to have that ahead of time. So just go to getmoreloans.com, and it'll take you to a calendar page and just give us your contact information. A couple more questions, maybe a topic of, hey, I want to talk about how do I get an assistant, how do I close more loans, how to get more referrals. We can talk about any number of things, but it starts with getmoreloans.com, getmoreloans.com. And when you do that call, be in a quiet place. You might want to, depending upon what you're asking, you might want to take some screenshots of some of our answers, and you're more than welcome to do that. So
Yeah.
getmoreloans.com. Cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
We
Thanks for
done?
listening, everybody.
Yeah. We have a great crowd, don't we?
We do. I
It's
mean, whew,
it's,
right.
it's such a positive energy. Um, Yeah, it's a pop boy. Who you hang out with is huge, and Chris and I are grateful to be hanging out with you. So
Yes.
getmoreloans.com. All right, cool. Hey, don't hesitate on that. Just go in, even if you don't think you're ready yet. Boy, knowing the info. Look, knowing where the boy the thought just went in my head. There's a fire going and going quick. Where's the fire exit? No, no, no. Know where the fire exit is ahead of time. Except this time, it's not running away from something. It's running towards something, right?
That's
So
right.
maybe that was a bad analogy there. So, but you get the idea. Yeah, find out what to do now, and that'll help you ramp things up. One last thing, Chris. A lot of people, I get this all the time. Dude, I'm not ready.
Mm.
I'm not ready. So let me get ready and then I'll take action. That's like saying, let me lose weight and then I'll go to Weight Watchers. Let
Yeah,
me get buffed and then I'll start going to the gym because I show up to the gym now. I'm not ready. No, that's how you get buffed. So they tell me, right? So they tell me that's how you get buffed. And so you don't wait till you're ready. That's how you get ready. So
that's
anyway,
right.
anyway, getmoreloans.com. Chris, I love you, brother. You're just an awesome guy. And I just couldn't be more tickled pink to have you as my partner.
Man, right back at you, Carl. So much value. And thank you for sharing.